This presentation will focus on the management topic ethics, more specifically the ethical issues which may arise due to conflicting goals between engineers and management. The main goals of management differ to those of the engineer. A manager seeks to earn the highest profit while maximizing stakeholder value. An engineer, on the other hand, seeks to design structures which are 1. Safe, 2. Pose the least damage to the environment while minimizing cost. In majority of cases, both the goals of management and the engineer are achieved with no problems. However, there are certain situations which may arise that cause the goals of management and the engineer to conflict, which create ethical issues. These situations may force the engineer to decide between two alternative courses of action which must be assessed as ethical or unethical. It is much easier to analyze these situations using real-life examples. However, we must first understand what ethics are and what code of ethics engineers are expected to follow. Ethics, also known as moral philosophy, is a branch of philosophy concerned with organizing, defending, and recommending concepts of right and wrong. The study of ethics seeks to continually build on and refine a set of moral principles that direct a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. These moral principles provide guidance as to what would be accepted as decent human conduct, essentially acting as a hidden set of rules for which society sees as acceptable. The three main areas which comprise the study of modern ethics are meta-ethics, which seeks to understand the nature of ethical properties and evaluations. Meta-ethics seeks to answer questions such as, how do we define what it means to be moral? Normative ethics, which seeks to understand the means by which we determine the rightness and wrongness of ethical action. Normative ethics seeks to answer questions like, how do we decide whether an ethical action is right or wrong? And finally, applied ethics, which is concerned with investigating a specific issue and applying ethical philosophy to determine the most moral course of action. This area of study is used to ethically debate controversial issues such as abortion, capital punishment, homosexuality, and euthanasia. When examining such issues, there is no black or white, right or wrong answer, as this answer may change when viewed from different perspectives. The goal of the debate is to view the issue from a number of standpoints and apply moral philosophy to each to present an argument for the most ethical course of action. This is the area of ethics which engineers use to shape the decisions they make in the workplace. Engineering ethics is the study of moral principles that are applicable to the engineering profession. Engineers have an obligation of duty to the public, their employer, clients, and to the profession as a whole. However, of all the responsibilities an engineer faces, the one which is given the greatest importance is the engineer's obligation to hold the safety, health, and welfare of the public above all other considerations when making decisions. This is reflected through the following excerpt from the National Society of Professional Engineers, the United States National Engineering Body Code of Ethics. Engineers, in the fulfillment of their professional duties, shall hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. Engineers Australia, the local governing body for engineers, has a similar statement in their Code of Ethics, which states that engineers must practice engineering to foster the health, safety, and well-being of the community and the environment. A code of ethics defines the values and principles that members of an organisation are expected to hold, with these values and principles being used to shape the decisions of members. Engineers Australia Code of Ethics details the values and principles that members are expected to uphold when practicing engineering in Australia. The code states that, in the course of engineering practice, we will demonstrate integrity, practice competently, exercise leadership, and promote sustainability. Engineers working within Australia are expected to uphold the Code of Ethics at all times. Any members engaging in conduct that is found to be in breach of the code will be liable to face sanctions as deemed appropriate by the Professional Conduct Committee. Sanctions include, but are not limited to, written warnings, written reprimand, expulsion or suspension of licence, and loss of chartered status. Any engineer found to be engaging in more serious allegations of misconduct, such as gross negligence or bribery, will also be liable to face criminal prosecution, resulting in imposition of possible jail sentence or fine. Henry Petrovsky, an American engineer specializing in failure analysis, noted that most engineering failures are much more involved than simple technical miscalculations and involve the failure of the design process or management culture. Notable cases of engineering failure which include ethical issues in addition to technical issues include the Hyatt Regency Walkway collapse in 1981, the Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984, the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster also in 1986, the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster in 2003, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010. The rest of the presentation will look at a number of real and hypothetical cases in detail, including the analysis of these cases against the Code of Ethics.
The first case is Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. The event occurred on 28 January 1986 in Kennedy Space Center in the United States. The Space Shuttle exploded just 73 seconds after its launching and killed all crew members in it. During the launching decision-making, the main conflict sides were experts from Thiokol company and a manager from NASA. The former acted as engineering and the latter acted as management. Thiokol company produced the O-ring in the Soviet rocket boost, whose malfunction in the launching directly caused the disaster. Before the final launching decision-making meeting, the Thiokol had already known the O-ring may not work well on low temperature, but they never made it clear that how low the temperature was. It was 0 Celsius degree, -5 degree, -10 degree, or -50 degree. For NASA, it experienced the pressure of the launch delay. For the first delay, it might be considered as understandable, and the second delay might make support annoy, while the third delay was possibly disappointing. All this gave pressure to NASA when they were making decisions.
Here is the brief decision-making progress between Thiokol and NASA. It should be noted that the meeting between Thiokol and NASA was not face-to-face. Instead, they were connected as teleconference. Firstly, Thiokol expressed its worry about the low temperature. Then NASA responded, "What? Are you sure? Do you have any evidence?" Thiokol replied, "They questioned the data tested before." Then NASA wanted a clear answer from Thiokol. Thiokol then didn't recommend if the temperature below 53 Fahrenheit degree. The next words were said by the NASA's Level 3 manager, Mr. Lawrence Malloy. "My God, Thiokol, when do you want me to launch? Next April?" After that, Thiokol asked for offline from the teleconference. During the period of offline, the Thiokol management requested the chief engineer to take off his manager hat and put on his manager cap. Once Thiokol was online again, it gave NASA decision to launch. Then the final decision to launch was approved by NASA. Is the ethics issue analysis. Thiokol did not have firm information regarding what exact temperature would be unsafe for the O-ring to operate at. This behavior is against the guideline of practicing competently in the Code of Ethics, that one should keep developing relevant knowledge and act in a careful and diligent manner. Thiokol changed their decision. It was not based on a well-informed conscience, because it failed to insist on what it thought was right. The 5 minutes offline discussion made Thiokol isolated from the other decision-making group, and hence NASA did not have an understanding of the basis from which Thiokol made the final recommendation to proceed with the launch, which is against the principle in the Code of Ethics. For NASA, It put pressure on Thiokol and forced it to reconsider its position on the ability of the O-ring to withstand low temperatures, which is out of the requirement in the Code of Ethics, because NASA did not treat Thiokol with sufficient courtesy, which forced Thiokol to make a decision against their better judgment. These ethics issues only arose because of the mismatching of goals between the engineering company Thiokol and the management at NASA.
Richard has just left company ABC, from which he had been an employee for over 10 years, and moves to one of their competitors, company XYZ. He has a discussion with one of his new managers who is hinting and asking about sensitive information from the previous company he had been working at. It has only been 2 weeks since he had left the company, and the information being sorted is confidential. Hey Richard.
Hi Paul.
How are you finding the new job?
It's a good change. I'm looking forward to make some great contributions for this company.
How was working for your old company?
We worked on a lot of interesting projects.
Oh, so what made you leave?
Well, I had a lot of disputes with my manager and it made work not pleasant.
Oh, okay. I heard they're working on a tender for an upcoming project up south. Did you have any involvement at all? You are required to disclose any conflict of interest as outlined in the Engineers Australia Code of Ethics. Section 1, Demonstrate Integrity, subsection 1.1. Act on the basis of well-informed conscience. You must give due weight to all legal, contractual and employment obligations.
Ready to discuss any details, Paul, as I'm still bound to the confidentiality of my previous employer.
We're currently running a competing tender and the managing director would be extremely pleased if we were to land the job. And you could land a very big bonus yourself if we happen to get the job. You don't happen to have any insights that'd be able to help our current tender? You've left the company. No one else needs to know. It just stay between us. The manager is engaging in conduct which is both deceiving and illegal. The offering of monetary reward for providing confidential information is a criminal offence. The engineer should again reiterate that he is bound by confidentiality and disengage from the conversation.
Look, Paul, as I said, I'm still bound to the confidentiality of my previous employer. I can't discuss this anymore.
Ben has been working on a new skyrise project and is responsible for designing the components of the structure. The project is already behind and any more delays will cost his company money. Ben notices that the dimensions for a number of beams should be made larger to safely withstand the loads being applied. Time is running out and his managers are pressuring him to give the okay for the designs to accelerate to the next phase of the project. Please note that the next section of the video is interactive and requires YouTube annotations to be turned on. Hey Ben, how you doing?
Good, thanks, Bob.
How's the design on the Delta project coming on?
So we're currently reviewing specifications for the beam now. We may need some extra time to ensure that they can withhold the loads.
Look, the project's so far behind. We've got a lot of money riding on this. We need the designs to be ready now. I've had a quick look through them. They seem fine. Just sign off on the design so we can get the components made.
Well, you need to understand that the current specifications, the beam may fail. We need to thoroughly review the calculations to ensure that the beams can withstand the loads. I've noticed that they may need to be designed wider.
We don't have time to review it again. It's been checked, it should hold. Just get it done now. Ben is uncomfortable with signing off on plans that he does not feel are safe. He seeks advice from the owner of the company.
Hi Richard.
Hi.
Can I have a talk to you about Delta project?
Sure.
I've just been speaking to Paul. He's really pushing me to sign off on the project, and I feel uncomfortable with this because I don't think the design is safe.
Look, it's vital that this project runs as fast as possible. Has Paul reviewed it?
Paul has reviewed it, but I really don't think it's safe, and if it fails, there'll be catastrophic consequences.
We've run projects like this before. Just progress it to the next stage.
Okay.